What's up, WrestleScope family? Before we dive into today's absolute bombshell, if you're not already subscribed, hit that button right now because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about WWE's power structure. And trust me, you're going to want to be here for what comes next. Listen, I need you to sit down for this because what happened after the camera stopped rolling on Monday Night Raw is not what WWE wants you to know. While you were celebrating Bron Breakker's dominant performance, while you were cheering his rise to the top, Paul Heyman, the wise man himself, was backstage orchestrating the most disgusting, most calculated betrayal in modern WWE history. That's right, folks. The man who pledged his loyalty to Bron Breakker, the man who claimed he saw the next Roman Reigns in the young champion, has just stabbed him in the back to reunite with Seth freaking Rollins. And if you think this is just another wrestling storyline, you haven't been paying attention to the real game being played behind the curtain. But here's where it gets insane. Roman Reigns' reaction to Drew McIntyre joining the Vision on SmackDown is the missing piece that connects everything, and nobody is talking about it. Let me take you back 3 weeks. Remember when Paul Heyman approached Bron Breakker with that signature smirk, when he whispered in his ear about destiny, about legacy, about becoming unstoppable? We all thought this was Heyman doing what he does best, finding the next big thing, the next meal ticket. Bron ate it up. The young lion, hungry for validation, hungry for that main event push, welcomed the wise man with open arms. And why wouldn't he? This is Paul Heyman we're talking about, the man who took Brock Lesnar from legitimate tough guy to box office gold, the mastermind behind Roman Reigns' historic 1,316-day title reign, the advocate who turned CM Punk into the voice of a generation. For 4 weeks, we watched Heyman work his magic. Bron's promos got sharper, his presence got bigger, his matches became must-see television. At Survivor Series, Bron Breakker demolished 3 opponents in under 12 minutes, and Paul Heyman stood at ringside with that knowing smile, nodding like a proud father watching his son conquer the world. But here's what nobody noticed, and I'm kicking myself for missing this. Every single time Bron celebrated a victory, every time he stood tall in that ring, Paul Heyman's eyes weren't on Bron. His eyes were glued to the entrance ramp. His phone was constantly in his hand. He was waiting for something. Or someone. The signs were there, WrestleScope Nation. We were just too blind to see them. Heyman kept mentioning the greater good in interviews. He kept talking about the bigger picture. He kept saying Bron was part of something special. We thought he meant Bron's individual rise. We were wrong. Monday Night Raw, the Nassau Coliseum, Bron Breakker versus Sheamus in a non-title match that was brutalizing. These two giants beat the living hell out of each other for 23 minutes of pure, unfiltered violence. Sheamus hit 3 bro kicks, 3, and Bron still kicked out. Paul Heyman was at ringside screaming instructions, playing his role perfectly. Too perfectly. Because when Bron finally hit that devastating spear, when he pinned Sheamus clean in the middle of the ring, when the referee's hand hit the mat for the 3rd time, that's when Paul Heyman's mask slipped. For just a second, and I've watched this footage 17 times, Paul Heyman looked disappointed. Not proud, not excited, disappointed that Bron had won. But the celebration happened anyway. Bron's music hit, the crowd exploded. Paul Heyman entered the ring with his arms raised, selling the moment like the Oscar-worthy performer he is. They embraced. The cameras captured what looked like a beautiful mentor-student moment. Then the feed cut. WWE went to commercial, and that's when everything went to hell. According to multiple sources backstage, and I've confirmed this with 3 separate people who were there, the celebration continued for about 30 seconds after the broadcast ended. Then Seth Rollins' music hit. Not on the PA system, not for the live crowd, someone played it from a phone near the timekeeper's area. Bron looked confused. Heyman didn't. Heyman looked ready. Seth Rollins walked out, and this man, this architect, had that calculated look in his eyes. The same look he had when he destroyed the Shield. The same look he had when he cashed in at WrestleMania. The look of a man executing a plan. What happened next was surgical. Seth entered the ring, and instead of confrontation, instead of the heated face-off we expected, he extended his hand to Paul Heyman. Not to Bron, to Heyman. And Paul Heyman, this snake, smiled and shook it. Bron's face went from confusion to rage in half a second. He grabbed Heyman's shoulder, spinning him around, demanding answers. And that's when Paul Heyman delivered the most vicious promo of his career, one that will never air on television. Bron, you were never the plan. You were the distraction. 7 words that destroyed a young man's trust. 7 words that exposed the entire con. Heyman explained it all right there in the ring with no cameras rolling, no microphones picking it up, just the shocked live crowd and a few crew members who couldn't believe what they were witnessing. He told Bron that Seth Rollins came to him months ago with a proposal. Seth wanted to build something new, something revolutionary, but he needed cover. He needed WWE management looking in the wrong direction while he assembled the pieces. Enter Bron Breakker, the perfect pawn. Young, hungry, desperate for guidance, and talented enough to be a believable project for Paul Heyman. While everyone in WWE was watching Heyman build Bron Breakker, Seth Rollins was quietly recruiting, planning, and constructing what he's calling the vision. And here's the sick part. Heyman admitted he actually grew to like Bron. He said, and I quote from my source, "You have everything I said you have, kid. You just don't have what he has," pointing to Seth Rollins. What does Seth have that Bron doesn't? According to Heyman, the mind of a champion. The ability to see 10 moves ahead, the willingness to sacrifice everything for success, the ruthlessness to do what Bron would never do, manipulate, deceive, and destroy anyone standing in his way. Now here's where this story gets nuclear, and this is what's going to blow your mind. Friday Night SmackDown, Drew McIntyre. The Scottish Warrior, the former WWE champion, the man who refuses to be anyone's second fiddle, joined the Vision. Solo Sikoa extended the invitation and Drew accepted. This seemed random, right? Why would Drew, a lone wolf his entire career, suddenly join a faction? Because Roman Reigns told him to. That's right. My sources indicate that Roman Reigns, who's been strategically absent from television filming a movie, has been pulling strings from Hollywood. The tribal chief saw what was happening with Heyman and Seth. He recognized the threat immediately. Seth Rollins with Paul Heyman's strategic mind is exactly the combination that could dethrone the Bloodline's power structure. So Roman made a call. He told Solo Sikoa to do whatever it takes to strengthen the Vision, not because he wants the Vision to succeed, but because he wants to control it from the inside. Drew McIntyre isn't joining the Vision as a loyal soldier. He's joining as Roman Reigns' spy. The tribal chief is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's placing his people inside every major faction so that when he returns, and mark my words, he will return, he'll have total control over the entire WWE landscape. According to an insider close to Roman's camp, when he heard about the Heyman-Rollins reunion, he reportedly said, "Paul always comes back, and when he does, I'll be waiting." That's not anger, that's not betrayal, that's confidence. Roman Reigns knows something we don't. He always knows something we don't. Now let's break down what this three-way chess match means for WWE going forward, because this is the storyline that will dominate the next year. You've got Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman building the Vision, a stable that reportedly includes Seth, Kevin Owens, who's been suspiciously friendly with Seth lately, and at least 2 NXT call-ups who haven't been revealed yet. Their goal? Total domination of Raw and eventually SmackDown. You've got the Bloodline on SmackDown, now with Drew McIntyre as Roman's inside man, preparing for the Tribal Chief's inevitable return. They're not just a faction anymore, they're an intelligence network. And you've got Bron Breakker, young, betrayed, furious, with something to prove and a vendetta against the two most dangerous minds in wrestling. But here's the twist nobody's considering. What if this was always Bron's destiny? What if Paul Heyman betraying him is exactly what he needed to become truly ruthless? What if the student needed to be destroyed to become the monster? Think about it. Every legendary wrestler has an origin story of betrayal. Stone Cold had his neck broken by Owen Hart. The Rock was rejected by fans and turned heel. John Cena was told he'd never make it. Betrayal doesn't end careers, it creates legends. Bron Breakker now has a mission. He's going to war with the Vision. He's going to prove Paul Heyman wrong. And in the process, he might become exactly what Heyman saw in him originally, an unstoppable force. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns is orchestrating everything from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
When Seth and Heyman think they've won, when the Vision seems unstoppable, that's when the tribal chief returns to remind everyone who really runs this company. The WWE locker room is divided right now. Superstars are being forced to choose sides. Do you stand with the Vision and their promise of a new WWE? Do you remain loyal to the bloodline and the established power structure? Or do you bet on the young lion, Bron Breakker, who represents the future? Backstage reports indicate that Raw's locker room had an emergency meeting after the Heyman situation. Talent is scared because Paul Heyman manipulating storylines from behind the scenes means nobody is safe. If he can betray Bron Breakker that coldly, what's stopping him from orchestrating anyone else's downfall? Meanwhile, SmackDown's roster is questioning Drew McIntyre's true intentions. Is he really committed to the Vision, or is he Roman's puppet? The paranoia is real. And Triple H, let's talk about the game. The chief content officer reportedly found out about this whole situation the same time we did. According to sources, he was furious that talent was orchestrating these mega storylines without his approval. But here's the thing, the fan reaction has been so explosive that he can't stop it now. The train has left the station and it's carrying WWE to potentially the highest ratings they've seen in years. This is Attitude Era levels of chaos. This is what happens when you let the inmates run the asylum, and honestly, I'm here for it. So there you have it, WrestleScope Nation. The most insane betrayal in modern WWE, connected to a master plan that involves three of the biggest stars in the company. Paul Heyman choosing Seth Rollins over Bron Breakker isn't just a storyline, it's a declaration of war that's splitting WWE down the middle. Bron Breakker is out for blood. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman are building an empire. Roman Reigns is pulling strings we can't even see yet. And Drew McIntyre is caught in the middle of a game where one wrong move could end careers. The question isn't who will win this war. The question is who will survive it. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me. Are you Team Bron seeking revenge? Team Vision with Seth and Heyman? Or are you Team Bloodline waiting for Roman's return? And here's the real question. Was Paul Heyman right to betray Bron Breakker? Or did he just create the monster that will destroy them all? Smash that like button if this story has you as fired up as I am. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because as this situation develops, WrestleScope will be the first to bring you every update, every twist, every betrayal. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know, because this is the conversation everyone needs to be having. The landscape of WWE just changed forever, and we're watching history unfold. I'm your host, and this is WrestleScope, where we don't just watch wrestling, we dissect it. I'll see you in the next one.